The biggest problem at this time is fear. When you fear, you give the power to somebody else, and that's not okay. And when you fear, you become blind to things that are really happening out there. When you take the power back, your vision opens up and you see a lot more.
I am Gloria Grace Rand, founder of the Love Method and author of the #1 Amazon bestseller, Live, Love, Engage: How to Stop Doubting Yourself and Start Being Yourself. In this podcast, we share practical advice from a spiritual perspective on how to live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically, so you can create a life and business with more impact, influence, and income. Welcome to Live, Love, Engage. Namaste. Today, we're going to be diving into ancient Taoist secrets that can transform your hectic life transform your life from being one that's hectic into one that's filled with simplicity, joy, and success. And our guest today is going to explain how letting go of behaviors that no longer serve us can actually create space for the abundance and peace you've been searching for. But first, if this is your first time here, I would like to welcome you. I am Gloria Grace, founder of Align to Shine Academy, and I empower women over 50 to love themselves and the life they're living, and to really be empowered to go forward with clarity and confidence. And I am so delighted to have an international guest joining us in just a moment. His name is Gerard Wouters, and he is a Taoist therapist from Holland. He's an author. He's written 7 books and been interviewed frequently on Dutch national TV. And his mission in life is to help people heal from mental issues and show how they can embrace the Taoist way to be happy and successful. So without further ado, I'm going to bring him up here and welcome you, Gerard, officially to Live, Love,
Oh,
Engage.
thanks for the invite.
Well, I'm glad to have you here because I think this topic is really interesting, and I love exploring different spiritual philosophies. And so I'm really curious. I thought we could actually start off by asking, just finding out from you, what actually first drew you to Taoist philosophy, and maybe even also explain for those who are listening who may not know exactly what that is. I know we'll get into it more, but what drew you to that, and how did it change your life before you started sharing it with
Well,
others?
Taoism is a life philosophy, and it's already 2,600 years old. And I met my teacher at a business meeting. He was staring at me, very annoying. And as soon as the business meeting ended, I walked up to him, and to my big surprise, he told me who I was, what my problem was, where it came from, etc., etc. That got me flabbergasted and very curious as to what this little man was. So I took him home, and he stayed at my place for about 5 weeks or so. And of course, he tested me like crazy because he wanted to know if I had the thing that he needed to uh, absorb and implement this knowledge. Because, like you said, is very ancient and also very secret knowledge. And after 5 weeks, he asked me, well, do you want to learn this? And I said, you know what? You better believe it. I've seen so many funny things, strange things that I just cannot grab. And I just want to get to the bottom of this. So, hell yeah, I want to know everything. And so he started to travel up and down to my country. I had a big house at that moment, and he had his own room. And he stayed with me for months and then went back again and then came back for months. And after about 4.5 years, 5 years, I asked him, you know what? This knowledge is so incredible, valuable. It shouldn't stay in a monastery. It should be out there.
Mm.
So, is it okay if I turn this into a professional treatment? And he says, okay, that's good. And I'll check on you and see how you do it, how you implement this. But on the one condition, I don't want to be a tourist attraction. So you do it without me and don't ever mention anybody where I am, who I am, because I want my peace. And I said, okay, if that's the only condition, there's no problem there. So from that moment, I started treating people this way. And I've been doing it for 28 years now.
Mm.
And this treatment is so incredible effective that I can help people recover and cure, heal, call it how you call it, in 4 2-hour sessions or a 2-day workshop,
Wow.
which I would love to do in your country because I found that 54 million people in your country suffer from depression.
Mm.
And that's incredible.
Hmm. Oh yeah,
They
it's
need help. And
yeah.
it's my mission to give it to them
Mm.
because it's crazy. So many people suffer from depression. It's absurd.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and especially even young people as well.
So I hope
So,
that's your answer.
well, it is. I want to ask because I'm going to follow up with this in a second, but you mentioned something that intrigued me because you said that when you were first like having him stay with you that there there were some things that were surprising. I mean, especially, I mean, you definitely mentioned that
Yeah.
first thing of him, being able to describe you, but could you maybe share another example of what,
Well,
yeah.
like him, I can say I'm specialized in facial expressions and body language. And trust me, it goes a lot further than you think. So I had one situation with him. We were in a hotel, in a bar hotel, and at one moment there was an old couple passing by, and he addressed her and told her, "I see you have cancer." And I said, "What?" And she immediately confirmed this, and he gave her some suggestions, some food suggestions, and then he said goodbye again. And I almost fell off my chair. I said, "You can't do this. What the hell are you doing out here?" He says, there's so many things that you don't know yet, but
Mm.
it's visible. Everything is visible
Hmm.
in body language, in facial expressions. And he says, I know you've got it too, but it needs to be fine tuned.
Mm. Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Oh my goodness.
And now when people come into my practice, I put them on the couch, give them a drink, and I immediately tell them what I see.
Hmm.
I see you're a warrior, you've been abused,
Hmm.
you have relationship issues, everything is visible.
Hmm.
And I surprise everybody with
Yeah.
that.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
And that's
Well,
I don't have to give them a diagnose. I just tell them, no, I see this, that's that, and 99% accurate.
okay. Yeah, I was going to say,
Even
so have you ever?
even to my surprise. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wow. That's amazing. Well, let's dive into this a little bit more because I mentioned at the beginning that this is one of the things that you talk about or why you were espousing, I guess, this philosophy is that is to help make our lives more simple. So,
Yeah.
can you explain what that approach is? Especially to help, because my audience is a lot of, women
Well,
entrepreneurs and life gets busy.
we all go through all kinds of processes,
Hmm.
life processes, but the problem is a lot of people don't learn from it. And there's one very important thing: we all get setbacks. That's part of life. But you know what? A setback is nothing more than a clue or a sign that you are doing something that's not in order with your path.
Mm.
And I decipher there. I learn people how to decipher setbacks, so it becomes a message that you can work with. You know, for example, when you've had an argument with somebody months ago, and at one moment you think, you know what, let's have a talk and let's meet. So you call this person up, make an appointment, and a few days afterwards, you drive up to him. And on your way to him, you get a flat. There's your sign. Now, there's two things you can do. Either you repair the flat and go to your friend, and I can assure you that you will not have a fine day because there are
Mm.
always new things happening.
Mm.
But what I learn people is to turn around and walk away.
Mm.
So what you can do, and that's the Taoism philosophy, what you can do is you call your friend and you say, you know what, I've got a flat and an incredible bad mood. So maybe you can understand that I don't want to come anymore.
Mhm.
But maybe you can call me coming week and then we make a new appointment.
Mm.
So you leave it at him. You give him the choice and you leave it at him.
Yeah.
When he doesn't call you after 5 weeks, you know
Yeah.
that this is not a friend. Because the
That's
real
true.
friend
Yeah.
will call you the next week.
Mhm.
And this way, turning around and walking away creates respect with the other person.
Mm.
And you will get clarity, immediately clarity as to if he is a real friend or not.
Mm. Yeah, I love
And
that.
that's one of the processes that I
Yeah.
explain during sessions and workshops.
Mm. Yeah,
That
it's
clarity, you know,
yeah.
make
Oh,
sure
yeah.
that when something happens, it happens for a reason.
Mm.
Everything in life happens for a reason. Only
Mhm.
the problem is
Yeah.
we start thinking, we start worrying, we start overthinking, and then we become blind.
Mhm.
What's
Yeah.
really happening?
Yeah, I so resonate with this because I've definitely learned that it's important that the universe will send you signs and you need to start paying attention to them.
And I
And I
explain
love
how
that
people,
example. That's
yeah,
perfect.
I explain to people how to decipher them
Mm.
because then it becomes a message you can work with. But most people don't understand how to decipher it.
Mm.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who see signs, but they don't have no clue what to do with it. They
Mm.
start thinking, start worrying, and then the message is not clear,
Mm.
and you can't do anything with it. And you keep going that way, keep getting more setbacks, and at the end you get sick
Mm. Yeah.
because
No.
that's how far it goes. And
Yeah,
that's
that's
what I explain during sessions and workshops too.
mm.
If you don't learn your lesson, you get it again, and it becomes harder every time,
Mm.
and you get
Mhm.
sick, and etc., etc., etc.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's so
that's what you
true.
need to understand what the setback means, so you can
Mhm.
work with it. You can
Yeah.
turn your life around.
Yeah.
Understand the message. Very important.
Yeah. What are some maybe other common like behaviors or thought patterns that you see that no longer serve, let's say, women in business in particular, and how can we
Well,
begin to unlearn those?
the biggest problem at this time is fear.
Mm.
And um, your last guest, Tara, beautiful woman, she understood when you fear, you give the power to somebody else, and that's not okay. And when you fear, you become blind to things that are really happening out there. When you take the power back, your vision opens up and you see a lot more. Because you know what? Fear, we learned fear once when we were in the jungle ages ago, and there was a reality there, and it's called animals. And there were huge animals that would love to have us for lunch. But you know what? I don't meet them anymore at the streets these days. So fear is something that is learned every day by people who are trying to control us. And it's not serving us anymore. And when people learn fear, they lose their privacy, they lose everything. And that's not okay because you are the one who should be in control of your life and not some government or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
problem is when you fear something, it comes to you.
Mm-hmm.
You immediately, unconsciously attract it.
Mm-hmm.
So when
Absolutely.
you have fear of spiders, you will find your house full of spiders
Gosh.
until you understand and realize that a spider is only this big. Yeah, and it's completely useless, harmless, cannot hurt you. Whatever it does, it cannot hurt you. And the moment you realize that, you unconsciously stop fearing them and they disappear. They're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Not one in your house anymore when you lose the fear. And this is with a
Okay.
lot of things, eh? It's always the same people who get scammed, who get robbed, who get abused. It's
Mm.
fear.
Yeah.
And when they unlearn fear, and that's what I do, I unlearn fear, they immediately attract other things. Because, like you said, the universe shows you and brings everything to you that you deserve. But first, you have to unlearn.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Unlearn fear, unlearn worrying,
Mm-hmm.
trust.
Yeah.
Trust in yourself, trust in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And
Definitely.
when you trust, everything will come to you.
Mm. Yeah. You've mentioned that you've been teaching for, 28 years now. What's the most powerful transformation you've witnessed, with one of your clients who's embraced these Taoist principles?
Um, well, on my website, there's a lot of your reviews. I think about two or three hundred. And there's one woman that traveled about 170 kilometers for my treatment, who's been who's had treatment for about 7 years in the regular mental health section branch. But nevertheless, she was still very depressed and suicidal. And after 4 sessions, it was completely gone. Now she enjoys life for incredibly. And you know what? She sent her daughter and son too, and they made an incredible change too. Yeah,
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, and
yeah,
I think that does happen because I know I've witnessed this in my own life that when you start changing making positive changes in your own life, then it does have a ripple effect because
yeah,
and I think even if someone isn't going to, maybe they still don't resonate with it, then those relationships fall away too. Have you
yeah.
have you seen that?
Yeah, well, I've seen it the other way around too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've had a guy with me, and after 3 sessions, or in the third session, he told me, you know what? To my big surprise, I received an email from my brother, and I said, what's so special about it? Well, he says, I haven't talked to him for 25 years.
Oh my. Wow.
Wow. And he says, I don't understand. I said, I do, because when you change, everything around you changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And he spent the day with him. And at the end of the day, his brother um, dared to tell him, you know what? In our youth, I thought you were a real asshole. And my client said, you know what? I was a real asshole.
Mm.
He finally took responsibility for his actions.
Yeah.
And that made him come closer. Huh?
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. Um, I've talked with a lot of different people on this podcast over the years who do, you know, uh, different like spiritual practices and mindfulness practices. How does the Taoist perspective differ from, I don't know, even like, I don't know,
Well,
Buddhism or something like that,
well, we all go through all kinds of life processes, and I explain these processes so that you understand why you are doing something, why you will end up in some situations. So basically, I give answers instead of questions. And a lot of people out there who call themselves holistic, well, I'm afraid I don't agree. Holistic means that you treat the body and the mind, and that's exactly what I do. I start with a physical treatment, because the problem is, when you're physically closed, your mind is too. And if you don't open up the body first, the mind is closed and you talk to the wall. And that's what a lot of psychologists who have been under my treatment for the past 28 years have to admit. They don't come in. Their clients don't open up. And because they don't open up, it's because their body are shut down. You know, people who have mental issues always have physical issues. Back pains, hip complaints, neck, shoulders, they're all cramped up. And I can explain them why. Because your body, you can separate your body in all kinds of things. Because up here, there stays anger. And it's not from yesterday, I can assure you.
Yeah.
I have people who've been angry for about 20 to 40 years. And it shows up here. It's completely cramped up. Between the shoulder blades is grief. When you've been hurt, lost somebody, whatever, and you don't process that, you don't get over it, it'll stay in your body. And you can see that. When I touch people's shoulder blades, especially the right side, you can feel like there's like a sort of how do you call it? Sort of a belt. There's a piece that's hard. And when you look at it, you can see how many years ago there was. And that surprises people a lot, because I'm usually 99% right. Telling them, you know what? Something happened 7 years ago. And they say, you can know that. Well, your body tells me. Yeah, I'm not sucking it out of my thumb. Your body tells me everything. Yeah. I've had a guy, I've treated a man who told me, you know what? You know me better than I do. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. Your body tells me everything. And if your body doesn't tell me, your facial expression will.
Well, I'm curious though, because it seems like though. So you're saying that you will address the body first and help it to heal, but you do say that there's there are like underlying emotional causes for that. So it seems to me, wouldn't you want to address the mind first and then have the body respond to it? So I'm just
no, it's always the other way around.
Oh, okay.
You have to clear the body first, so that your energy flows again, and it's free. It can, a lot of people don't breathe very properly. Yeah. So when I open up this, they breathe a lot more and they start to relax like they should. So it's always first the body and then the mind. I can give you an example. I've had a lot of people, a lot of women who were sexually abused, and then they get hip problems. And the experience learns that they see physiotherapists for years, sometimes even decades. And with me, in 2 sessions, it's gone. Yeah. Because of the physical, I mean, it's like it's comparable to manual therapy and chiropractic. That's what I do.
Okay. Yeah.
Only a lot of these things I do are unknown in West. East, they're a lot further at this point, but yeah. And some of the things I do are painful, yeah. But when I do hurt people, it's only a few seconds, and after that, they immediately realize that, wow, I'm breathing a lot more. I've got a lot more room, and wow, my hips are loose. I had a surgeon who is a back surgeon, and he says, I don't know what you did with me. This is the second session. He says, but I completely run out everybody. I run twice as hard as everybody, and with the same, I don't do anything different than normally, but I pass everybody. Yeah.
Hmm.
Said, yeah, because when your hips are loose, you run a lot harder, a
Hmm.
lot faster, without any more, you know.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, for someone listening, though, if they're not necessarily able to see you in person in Holland, since that's where you live, is there some simple Taoist practice that someone could start using today to, bring more peace into their life?
Well, yeah, it's especially unlearning things, realizing that a lot of things that we learn every day is not helping us anymore. You know, we get taught fear every day. If it's not terrorism, then it's climate. It's always something. But when you look at it the right way without fear, you see that there's something else going on. And I don't want to go into too deep in that because I don't want to be like a conspiracy theorist. But there's a lot more going on when you see. When you don't fear, you see a lot more.
Hmm.
And you see why they teach us fear.
Hmm.
And it's all about control. Yeah.
Yeah.
In Holland, it goes very far.
Hmm.
In October, they want to introduce the digital euro.
Hmm.
And what a lot of people don't understand is when this is implemented, the government controls everything you do with money,
Hmm.
like the Chinese system. And
Yeah.
that's a problem.
Hmm.
That's a huge problem.
Yeah.
Gone freedom. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you fear, you don't see it,
Hmm. That's
because they
true.
use a lot of silly excuses, making it look like wonderful and great invention. Yeah, well, until you stop fearing and see what is really going to happen
Hmm.
when they
Yeah.
implement this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, and that is going down a whole other rabbit hole. So I'm not we're not going to go down there right now. But although I do,
well,
yeah, I
that's
have
what I
my
said. I don't want to get too deep into it because,
yeah, exactly, yeah. Well, now your work focuses on making life simple, happy, and successful. So
yeah.
what does success look like through a the Taoist lens?
Well, success is that everything is going your way, that you hardly have any setback, and when you have a setback, you know what to do, you know what action you need to take to turn it around. That's what success is all about.
Mm,
And success is something else for everybody. Somebody can be very successful in a happy relationship, and somebody could be a multimillionaire and have a huge company. But you know what? Not everybody wants to be a millionaire, and not everybody wants to be a CEO. And yeah, unfortunately, not everybody wants to have a relationship either. Yeah, but so success is something for everybody. It's something else for everybody.
mm,
But success in Taoism is no everything going your way.
mm,
They call it the flow. When
mm.
you're in the flow, that's success,
Yeah.
and that can be at every level.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. And
At
and
this
it's
time, this time I'm single, but I'm choosing to be single.
mhm,
Because I have a few other things I need to address first.
mhm.
So I'm not ready yet to have a relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's important, I think, for
Yeah.
people to know. You get to
Oh, yourself.
decide.
Yeah. Yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have a little crush on Charlie Theron.
Well, good
And
luck with that. Okay.
she lives a little far away. Yeah.
Mm. Um, you
But
know,
that doesn't bother me.
yeah. Hey, well, why not? Why not? I mentioned again in your bio that you've written 7 books. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I've written one by myself so far. So, but
Well,
is there a particular teaching or concept that you find yourself returning to most often when you're working with clients, especially from any of your books?
uh, well, let me tell you a little secret first. I'm dyslexic.
Oh, Okay.
I'm a dyslexic.
Mm.
So it's very uncommon for a dyslexic
Mm.
to write books.
Yeah.
And let me even surprise you more. I write books in a few days. Yeah, it takes me a few days to write a book, and yeah, don't ask me how, but that's probably some of the talents. Yeah, but yeah. Well, what the most thing I can I tell your audience, unlearn, be yourself, and not your what your surrounding wants you to be, because you don't get happy from that. Yeah,
Mm.
discover yourself. A lot of people out there have the feeling they're not good enough and they're unworthy. But the problem is you get that signal from the people who feel the same way, and realize that and unlearn that. Because when you unlearn that, you will see that all the people who give you the feeling you're not good enough will completely turn around and give you all kinds of compliments, stimulate you and admire you. Because there's a very strange thing out there in this world. We admire people who are themselves, but that means that we find it normal that you're not. And that should be the other way around.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is important to be able to surround yourself with people who do
Yeah.
help you, who are
Well,
uplifting.
the funny thing is when you change
Mm.
and you really value yourself, you will attract these people,
Hmm.
and you will lose a few too, but
Yeah,
they're not okay for you. You know,
this is true.
yeah, because people who are too kind always attract the other way, the others. The opposite, and that's not
Yeah.
okay because they will abuse you in any way.
Mm.
But when
Yeah.
you really become yourself
Hmm.
and find out your value, you will see that you will attract other kinds of people on a much higher level
Yes.
mentally.
Oh, yeah.
That's the purpose of life.
Hmm.
Grow.
Yeah.
We have to grow every day.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what a lot of people do is think, 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 think. Well, in Taoism, we say, you know what? You can only create from emptiness.
Mm.
A building has four walls, but what happens inside the walls gives the building its function. When you put beds in there and equipment, we have a hospital. But when you put desks in it with computers, then we have an office. When you put a couch in it and a television and a table, you have a house. But you know what? These are all the same walls, and you can only create from the emptiness in the building and inside you.
Mm.
There's a funny situation. I've had a doctor under my treatment, uh, and this doctor treats older people. And after his treatment, I kept contacting him. And at one moment, he invited me for lunch. And during lunch, he complained to me that he felt such an emptiness inside. And I said, you know what? Do you really hear what you are saying? He says, what do you mean? I said, do you realize that there are 10,000s of monks meditating 24/7 to achieve what you are saying now? And he says, what? I never thought of it that way. I said, yeah, but that's the way you should. You created the emptiness inside you, and I helped you with it. Now deal with it. Enjoy it, because this is what monks are meditating 24/7 to achieve. And
Hmm.
I gave it to you as a present. So be happy with it.
Hmm.
Don't
Yeah.
complain. Be happy with it, because this is how it should be.
Mm. Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that. So, what do you think was his sort of misconception about that emptiness? Why do you think he felt that that empty was actually something he was sort of missing instead of appreciating it.
Well, he was always busy and always with other people, and I, I put him back on his place, and I told him, stop pleasing other people and start pleasing yourself. And then came the emptiness because he said, I have no idea how to please myself. Well, then start to discover how to please yourself.
There
Create
you
the
go.
emptiness inside you and see what happens.
Hmm.
Because from emptiness, you can create everything you want, but you have to start with emptiness.
Hmm. I love that,
Yeah,
and I love that building analogy that you use too. I mean, with the four walls and
yeah, yeah.
creating
And
so
you can
that
do it with a bucket too.
yeah.
When you have a bucket, you can put water in it with soap, and
Hmm.
it becomes to clean. You can clean with it.
Yep.
But my little girl, this beautiful little lady here,
Hmm.
she puts Lego in it, and then it becomes a complete different function. But it's the
So
same bucket.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so cool. Well, I'm going to shift gears here because we're starting to wind down. So because I love asking my guests this and see the responses I get. So, what are you curious about right now?
Well, what am I curious about? That's a good one. How can I help your country get up and help the people become themselves and make their life a lot simpler and happier? Yeah, I'm trying to find on the internet how I can get to your country and do my work out there and help people improve their quality of life because that's my mission in life.
Mm.
Yeah, and I'm very curious how I can do that and if I can find somebody to organize it for me, organize 2 day workshops.
Mm.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
really,
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, we maybe we could talk.
surfing the internet, finding information because all the information is out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and I resonate so much with what you shared today because it's things that I teach my clients, as well about, because I teach something called the love method, and the V is value your uniqueness.
yeah.
So it's really important to be able to appreciate that. So it's so cool. Is there anything else that I should have asked you about that I didn't? Any other last point that you want to make with our audience?
No, well, yeah. The Taoism is a lifestyle, and it makes life a lot simpler, and it gives you the possibilities to see a lot more out there, see the patterns, and see all the things that happening in the world, and understand why it's happening. In my 2 day workshop and in sessions, I explain about a kitchen being demolished and being replaced by a new one. And that's exactly what is happening in this world. We are tearing down the kitchen and we're making room for a new world.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's what I teach people. Understand that all the bad things you see happening in the world all have a reason too.
That's
And
true.
most of the time, the reason is wake the up
Right. Yeah, exactly.
and see that a lot of things don't serve us anymore,
Hmm.
and they need to be demolished.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So
yeah.
cool. Um, if someone listening to this today wants to learn more about you and the work you do, how can people get in touch with you? Maybe someone wants to help you, start a workshop here.
Oh, right, that'll be great. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I have a good website. Yeah, that's the one. And there I have to say one thing. When
Hmm.
you go to my website, it's of course Dutch, obviously, because I am Dutch. I hope so people understood that because I put down calling from the Holland.
Hmm.
But on the top right of my website, there's a button. It says NL, and you can change it in EN for English. And then
Okay.
my website will translate in English.
Okay. Excellent. Any other languages? Because I do have an international audience that listens to this podcast.
No,
Okay.
unfortunately, only
Okay.
Dutch and English.
So
Yeah,
that's okay. Because I'm sure it's, you know, English is most likely those who are listening to this do
yeah.
speak English. Otherwise,
Most people,
they wouldn't be listening to the podcast.
yeah,
Since I
most
don't
people
translate.
understand English. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. All right. Well, thank
And
you
of
so
course, I'm
much.
also on Facebook,
Oh, okay.
Instagram, LinkedIn, you name it. I'm there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes. I know we've definitely connected on LinkedIn in particular,
yeah,
so I
yeah.
appreciate that. So,
Yeah, well, also Facebook, Instagram, X.
okay.
I'm everywhere. Only not on TikTok because TikTok, yes, it's more
Yeah.
for little children.
Yeah. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you spending your evening with us because it is evening where you are, even though it's
7 hours.
mid-afternoon for me. So I appreciate that. And I hope everyone did receive a lot of value from it. I know I did. So thank you.
Well, thank you for inviting me and hope to see you again.
Absolutely. And I do want to thank all of you for joining us today. And I hope, as I said, that you receive some value out of this conversation and check out Gerard's website. I will have all of that information in the show notes, so you can go check that out. And of course, I'd love to encourage you to, if you are new, to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform, so you'll know when our next episode comes out. They come out every week, and or you can subscribe, if I can speak, subscribe on YouTube as well. So until next time, I encourage you to go out and live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically.